At 75, Richard Gere has nothing left to prove, yet everything he just revealed will make you stop and rethink what love truly looks like. The silver-haired icon known for magnetic roles and whispered romances has finally spoken, not as a star, but as a man who's lived, lost, and learned. What he shared wasn't rehearsed or filtered through a publicist. It was raw, honest, almost too real for someone who once lived behind the most graceful smile in Hollywood. And it all began in a quiet place where love didn't shout, didn't chase, and didn't need to be perfect to be profound. He's been married before, adored by millions, and linked to some of the most famous women on the planet, but this was different. Roots of a restless soul. Long before Richard Gere became a symbol of charm and sophistication on the silver screen, he was a quiet, introspective boy growing up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and later grew up in Syracuse, New York. Raised in a working-class family, Gere showed early signs of creative brilliance. Gere came to understand that true love isn't about finding the perfect partner, but about becoming the right person at the right time. And when he finally did, he found the love he had been searching for all along. Richard Gere's love life was never dull. It was filled with some of the most beautiful women in the world, marriages to top supermodels, and an adoration from both the media and cinema that most could only dream of. Yet, despite all of this, it wasn't until he neared 70 that he discovered a love that didn't require him to chase it. This love didn't demand performances or attempts to change. It simply allowed him to be. Gere found a woman who didn't want to alter him but instead wanted to stay by his side, accepting him as he was. He would later call her the true love of his life. However, Richard's story is not simply the romantic tale of a Hollywood heartthrob. It is a personal journey. It's the story of a man who went from fame to solitude, from insecurity to serenity, from control to understanding. Gere's love story is one of growth, where he learned to love not through instinct but through maturity and self-awareness. Before becoming the silver screen icon known for playing the charming romantic lead, Richard Gere was just a lanky boy from Pennsylvania. He was someone who loved music, playing the trumpet, composing songs for school plays, and diving into philosophy at the University of Massachusetts. But theater would change his life, offering him the opportunity to live many different lives on stage. From a young age, Richard became accustomed to playing the charming man, a role that was as much a part of his life off-screen as it was on. With his striking looks and quiet, enigmatic personality, women were often drawn to Richard. His early relationships were marked by passion, but they often burned out quickly. Whether it was the fiery model Carol Mallory, who once referred to him as a jewel shooting across the sky, or his relationship with the trailblazing studio head Don Steele and his co-star Penelope Milford, love for Gere during these years was more about self-discovery than lasting connection. One of the most significant relationships of his early life was with Sylvia Martins, who introduced him to Buddhism, meditation, and the beauty of Nepal. This connection would play a key role in Richard's later life and personal development. Despite his success in both his career and romantic life, Richard Gere remained emotionally unanchored in his youth. His career soared with films like Looking for Mr. Goodbar, Days of Heaven, and American Gigolo. But the fast-paced, high-energy lifestyle of Hollywood, parties, paparazzi, and hotel rooms, only served to deepen his sense of emptiness. He was constantly searching for something, yet never finding it. Then, in 1988, at a barbecue hosted by the renowned photographer Herb Ritts, Richard met the 22-year-old supermodel Cindy Crawford. She had just graced the covers of every major fashion magazine, and their worlds could not have been more different. Richard was Hollywood's sophisticated, calm star, while Cindy was the vibrant, fresh face of American beauty. Their romance was swift and deep, and soon they became one of the most iconic couples of the early 90s. Their public appearances, jet-setting between New York and Hollywood, made them the envy of many. But despite the glamour and the chemistry between them, they found that they moved at different paces. Cindy was still navigating her burgeoning career, constantly juggling photo shoots and promotions, while Richard, who had spent decades in the limelight, sought inner peace, meditation, and solitude. Their spontaneous marriage in Las Vegas in 1991, with no guests, no grand spectacle, just the two of them, spoke volumes about their relationship. It wasn't about fanfare or external approval. It was just two people trying to make sense of something slipping through their fingers. But as Richard continued to embrace a quieter, more introspective lifestyle, Cindy struggled with her own identity, unsure of how to balance her personal self with her public persona. As she later admitted, "I tried to become the woman he needed and lost myself in the process." The marriage, despite its moments of genuine love, couldn't withstand the growing emotional distance. By 1995, the two quietly divorced, leaving the media with no scandal to report, just questions. Richard would later explain, "I loved a woman who didn't yet know who she was and I thought love could fix that, but that was unfair. No one was wrong. We just met at the wrong time." After his divorce from Cindy, Richard withdrew from the spotlight. No more tabloid relationships with young supermodels. He immersed himself in his spiritual practices, deepening his meditation practice, engaging in humanitarian work, and carefully choosing his film roles. For a time, it seemed as though his quest for love had come to an end. But fate had another chapter in store for him. In 1995, Richard met Carey Lowell, a serene former Bond girl from License to Kill. Their relationship grew quietly, with no public frenzy or paparazzi. In 2000, their son, Homer James Jigme, was born. And at 51, Richard experienced the joys of fatherhood. In 2002, they married in a private ceremony and began living a quieter life in Pound Ridge, New York. However, despite the calm exterior, cracks began to form. Richard, deeply committed to his meditation and spiritual practice, often retreated into silence, while Carey yearned for more connection and movement. As the years passed, their distance became more apparent. In 2013, Carey filed for divorce after 11 years of marriage, citing irreconcilable differences. The media attention was not focused on scandal but rather on their attempts to divide assets, including $45 million in multiple homes. Even through the divorce, they remained committed to co-parenting their son, Homer. After the divorce, Richard disappeared from the public eye. There were no more red carpet events or interviews. Many speculated that he would live out the rest of his life quietly and alone. But life, as it often does, had other plans. In 2014, while still navigating his divorce from Carey, Richard briefly connected with Padma Lakshmi, the model and host of Top Chef. Their relationship was low-key and short-lived, lasting only 6 months. Both understood that their lives were in different places, and after amicably parting ways, Richard learned something profound from the experience: true harmony couldn't be forced, and love alone didn't guarantee a lasting connection. This realization marked a turning point in Richard's life. He stopped searching for love. And just when he least expected it, love found him. Alejandra Silva, a Spanish activist and philanthropist, entered his life quietly and gently. Alejandra, having recently ended her own marriage, was focused on her charity work with the Rise Foundation, fighting homelessness. She had little interest in fame and was content living a life of purpose. In 2014, they met again at a hotel owned by Alejandra's family in Positano, Italy. Both were weary from the emotional toll of their divorces. Yet when their eyes met, they saw not their past, but a future together.